Hey everybody, and welcome to Bits of Board, where we're talking board games, miniatures, cards, and dice. My name's Michael, and today we are checking out a game by the name of Spirit Island. Now, I am super pumped to tell you about this game. It came out in 2017, and had I played it in that year, it would have easily made my top 10 games of the year, sitting right up there with Anachrony at number 1. Oh, it is so good. I guess that's spoilers for the review section, yeah. Now, Spirit Island is a co-op gaming experience where players take on the role of spirits defending their island from invaders. It's kind of got like a pandemic feel to it, except it's pandemic on steroids. This thing takes it to a new level with like variable player powers, hugely impressive gameplay. Seriously, this one ends up being such a brain burner, but in such a good way. I'm going to stop talking about this game, right? Firstly, we're going to jump into it and I'm going to take you through a bit of the look and feel, and then maybe the first 3 rounds of gameplay so you can get an idea of how this thing plays on the table. We'll come back after that and I'll tell you just what it is, the specifics of what makes this game so exciting for me. Let's get stuck in. Alright, here we go. I've got all the gear set up for just a quick 2-player run through of Spirit Island. So we've got the island in the middle, we've got some cards and bits and pieces floating around up the top, all of which I will go through with you shortly. On the left hand side we have the invader board, and on the right back over here we have our decision making. Which spirits do we want to play and what colour pieces do we want to use, that sort of thing. Now, I just wanted to quickly say before we get into it that this is actually quite a small table space for what this game brings together. These boards are about, big hand size kind of thing. And to run it up to a 4-player game, you basically just need 2 more of these. So the table footprint is quite manageable. Now, in the base game, you'll have, I think, 8 total spirits to pick and play as, all of which have varying difficulty, and you'll be using these spirits and their unique powers to cause fear, to command the natives of the island, and basically drive off the invaders any way you can. So let's take a look at some of the core mechanics, the where, what, and who, and then get into a bit of a game. Alright, here we are on the island. As you can see, it's divided up into a number of different regions. We've got ocean regions, we've got wetlands, forests, deserts, mountains, and we're going to be influencing each of these locations so we can progress the game how we need. Now, setup is a breeze. We pick 1 random map tile per player, and then we place them together, numbers facing in, and we just basically put down a bunch of tokens and pieces as represented on the tile. So down here in this wetlands, let's see if I can zoom in a smidge, we need to place a dahin and a city. Now, cities are the most powerful structures of the invaders, but we'll catch onto them shortly. And the dahin, well, these are the native inhabitants of the island, so they're occupying the same region as our invaders. Now, not all locations have a symbol, but that's okay. They're going to be crawling with invaders soon enough. I'm going to go ahead, set up, and show you where everything is. Now, you might be able to notice straight up that each tile has the same number of tokens on them. They're just a different combination of token and placement and stuff like that. I missed a little dahin up there. Now, there's a couple of other bits and pieces here that I will show off really quickly. Over here, we have the towns. These are slightly less powerful than the cities. And then over here, we have token of blight. Every point of this represents the diminishing health of the island's natural habitats. Now, prior to the start of the game, we'll also be spawning a number of explorers, and these are the ground forces of the invaders. We're not going to do that just yet. It's actually going to be one of the very first things that we do when we start the game. But for the moment, guys and gals, that is the island. Let's take a closer look at the invaders. Alright, now I've got a bit of explaining to do on this one. There's actually quite a few things going on this board. We have our fear track down here. We have a spot indicating the current terror level, which sort of governs the requirements for a game victory. Down here we have the blight section, and then down here from right to left we have the invader track. Oh, and we've also got the fear pool up here, and that ties in with the fear track. So let's start there. At the beginning of the game, we place 4 fear tokens in the fear pool up the top here. Now that's 4 per player. Now, through a bunch of actions that we play throughout the game, we're going to be generating fear, moving tokens down into this generated fear section. As soon as we have all of the fear tokens in the generated section, we push them back up to the top of the fear pool and earn a fear card. Now, the game has quite a few fear cards, but every normal game that you play, you're only going to be dealing with 9. You're going to place 3 on the fear deck, and then we're going to place a terror card. Now this will be clear wire shortly, so I'll place 3 more, Terror 2, and 3 more there. The way this works is, as we earn fear cards, we place them down in the earned fear card section, and as soon as we reveal a new terror level, we drop that into the terror level section over here, indicating our new requirements for victory. Terror level 1, it's pretty hard to get a victory. You need to take out all explorers, towns, and cities. Terror 2, you just need the towns and cities. And finally, Terror 3, well, you just need to get rid of the cities. We'll talk a little bit more about the fear deck and how that works as we actually play the game, so let's move on. Now, over here, we've got the Blight spot here. And in the base game, we start off with 2 Blight cards, both of which have the exact same front side here, but the back, they have a couple of different conditions. For the moment, though, we're just going to pick one, chuck it in the Blight section, and then put 2 Blight on the card per player. Now, once we are forced into placing the 4 Blight that we have here currently, we're going to be flipping the healthy card over to its unhealthy side. It makes the game a lot harder for the spirits when this happens, but it also gives us a final chance to enact vengeance against the invaders. Now, the invader track. This is a pretty cool way of commanding the game's AI. We've essentially got 3 decks here, a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3. Now, as we play, we're going to be ramping up through the invader deck, and things are going to get a lot harder towards the level 3 side of things. What we're going to do when we set up is we're going to take a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3 out of the deck. We're not going to use them. It just gives us a little bit of uncertainty as we play. And then we're going to stack each of those on top. We have our deck prepared and ready to go. Now, we've already had a quick look at the invaders. They've got 3 tokens representing them. We've got the cities, we've got the towns over here, and we have the explorers. Now, each of these kind of represent how much health and how much damage each structure will do to the island. The explorers, they have 1 hit point and deal 1 damage. The towns, they have 2 hit points, deal 2 damage, and the cities deal 3 and have 3 hit points. So it's a really nice visual representation without having to put any numbers on cards kind of thing. We can see that there are 3 points in the city, 2 in there, and it's glorious. Anyway, that's enough for the invaders to begin with. Let's head over and check out our spirits, where all of the heart of this game comes together. All right, so here are our spirits, and the front side of the board is all gameplay related, and we'll cross them pretty shortly. But the other side, this is just one of the lovely little bits of hand-holding this game does for you. It basically gives you an overview of what each spirit has to offer. So as you can see here, River Surges in Sunlight is a low complexity spirit, which means it'd be good for new players and the like. And then you can see down here that it's got quite a strong offense, a really big control, but sucks when it comes to fear, defense, and is above average in its utility spec. Now this of course refers to the spirit's abilities and its starting powers, but these can be changed as you play the game. Again, we'll come to that very shortly. So I'm thinking we'll play as Lightning Swift Strike, a wonderful offense heavy spirit, and we'll check out a Spirit of Rampant Green. Got a lot of defense, and I believe the two will work quite nicely together. On choosing your spirit, you're also going to gain a small hand of cards that complement your spirit's ability. Let's have a closer look at Lightning Swift Strike. Now, first thing you do when you grab a spirit is you're going to cover up a bunch of spaces on your spirit board with presence tokens. Now, you're going to cover these up right to left, leaving the leftmost space free. These two here will represent your starting abilities. Lightning Swift Strike will gain 1 energy per turn and may play up to 2 cards. Now this leaves us with 2 presence tokens remaining, and we're going to place these on the island board, indicating where our influence is strongest at the moment, and it's basically going to be our home base for playing any powers. Now if you're like me, you always set up the spirit card first and then forget exactly where these suckers need to go. So at this point you have to pull off all of the tokens, flip the board over, and read the setup and remember it. Put 2 influence tokens on your starting board in the highest numbered sands. There we go. I'll fix that back up in a sec. Now lightning's going to start on the right hand side of the board, and as you can see, each territory is numbered for this very reason. 6 is the highest numbered sands, so I'm going to place my 2 influence markers in there. May as well do a spread of rampant green while we're here as well. 1 in their highest wetland, so 1 there, and 1 in the jungle that doesn't have any dahin. Alright, so once you've got your board back together, trust me, it'll happen all the time, you're pretty much ready to play. Now before we get into it, I'm just going to quickly run through the very basics of the game so you're not like completely weirded out when we get started. Every turn, the spirit is going to gain presence, which they can then use to utilize their powers. The cost for playing a power is in the top left of every card. So right now, with my 1 energy, I do not have enough to pay for my Raging Storm or Shatter Homestead's abilities. But I could play Lightning's Boon, or over here, my 0 cost card, Harbingers of the Lightning. Now, the fact that I can play 2 cards means they would probably be my first bet, but who knows what this game brings at the start. Now, each spirit has their own little abilities and nuances. Growth is something we'll talk about at the very beginning of the game, so we'll cross that shortly. But they've also got some special abilities. Lightning Swift Strike has the swiftness of lightning. Now, this specific ability looks at the element of the played cards. So if we look over here at Harbingers of the Lightning, we can see 2 different elements here. Now, I know this top one's fire, but I have no idea what the purple one is. Perhaps it's wind. But it doesn't really matter. As long as you can see that there are symbols on these cards, you're in for a good time. Now this one here, for every, let's say it's wind, you may use 1 slow power as if it were a fast power. Let's look at these cards here. Some are slow, some are fast. Are you ready? Blue ones, they are slow. You can also tell by the little turtle in the speed column over here. Let's ignore that for the moment though. Red ones, they are fast ones. Now this will make a little more sense later on, but suffice to say, fast powers happen sooner than slow powers. How's that? Lightning Swift Strike, as long as it has a purple on the card, you can choose to play any of the cards you play that turn as a fast power. That may not make a huge amount of sense right now, but it is important. Now, before we lose ourselves in the special rules, let's have a look at our innate powers over here. Thundering Destruction. Now, innate powers are separate from the powers that you play from your hand, but they do rely on the elements gained. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that I cast these 3 spells. Ignore completely what they do for the moment. But we've gained 3 fire elements and 3 wind elements. Over here, to use this Thundering Destruction ability, destroy 1 town, we need 3 fire and 2 wind. Hey, we've got them! So, separate from these cards that we've played, we can now enact a new ability. Let's say we got a 4th or a 5th fire ability. Let's say we got all of these ones here for our 3rd ability. 5 fire elements, 4 wind, 1 water. We get everything up to that final power there. So, we could destroy 1 town. With the 2nd ability, we may instead choose to destroy 1 city instead of the 1 town. And then with the 3rd ability, we can also destroy 1 town or 1 city. Amazing. But as you can see, you'd need to spend a lot of cards to be able to get that sort of power. Whew. All right. That is enough for the spirit side of things. You're going to see all this stuff in action very soon indeed. In fact, Let's get straight in. Now, the very last thing we do during setup is we resolve and explore, just to get some explorers on the map. As you can see here, we are going to be placing explorers in the jungle. Let's head over the island and do that. So the rules for exploration are pretty simple. If a target land is neighboring an invader presence, or if it's got an existing invader presence within it, you spawn an explorer. So here we have an existing invader presence. Bang, we chuck an explorer in here. This forest over here, it's neighboring an invader presence. Spawn it. Here, spawning, and finally in that very top corner, yes, every single possible location that could get an explorer does in the first turn. Oh. And with that, guys and gals, we are finally ready to get into the game. We turn to our player aid, and it looks like we're going to begin with the spirit phase. There's a whole card for that. Let's get stuck in. Here are those spirit actions. We're going to do growth, gain energy, and then we're going to play and pay for our power card. So let's go ahead and do that for our lightning swift strike. Let me just get this player board into view a little nicer. Now the growth section is up the top of the card, and we get to pick one of the 3 sections of growth to perform. Now the first 3 icons up here make up the first growth option. So we can reclaim our cards, gain a new power card, and gain 1 energy. Reclaiming cards is important because every time you play a card, you play it, and then you can't play it again until you've taken those cards back in through the reclaim action. Considering we have a full hand of cards right now, that is not how we're going to start. This next one here is we can add presents to the board. That means we can take one of the discs and place it on the board by following the rules on the growth option. So in this one here, we may place 1 presents token up to 2 spaces away from any existing tokens we have on the board. Then we may add a second presence token at range 0. So that means it's got to go on top of another token we've already placed in there. The final option is to add 1 presence at range of 1, and then we gain 3 energy. Now the energy might be nice because, well, if we didn't get it, we'd be limited to using just these 2 here. So I'm thinking let's go for that third option. We're going to take a presence, we're going to take it from the energy track, and we're going to place it on the board at range of 1. Now I'm thinking we extend into the wetlands here, mainly because this will extend the reach of some of our abilities, allowing us to interact with some of the more central regions. I don't think we're quite cut out for the distant lands just yet, but we'll get there. The second part is to gain +3 energy there. Beautiful. Next, we move into the gain energy phase, and as you can see on the board, we're just going to gain 1, despite the fact that we upgraded our energy track by removing the presence token. We're still only going to gain 1 additional point of energy, but that's okay. We're doing pretty well this early in. The final step is to play and pay for any power cards. So take a look at our hand. We've got 4 to play with, and we've got a couple of options. Firstly, let's look at our 0 cost option here. We may push up to 2 Dahin, and we gain 1 fear if we pushed any Dahin into a land with a town or a city. Yeah, I'm thinking we should. So let's play this one, and we'll pay for it. Costs us nothing, so that's a pretty good start. And then let's look at our next ones. Lightning's Boon. Target spirit may use up to 2 of their slow powers as if they were fast powers this turn. So this is a very supportive card. It's great for assisting other players, but our usage of this will depend on what the other spirits are doing. Because right now, while we are going through Lightning Swift Strike's actions through their entire spirit phase, the other players are doing this at the exact same time. That's what makes this game so wonderful, is that while there is a lot of decision making to be done, there is no delay. Everyone is making these decisions at the same time. Table talk is of course allowed. In fact, it's encouraged, because otherwise you're going to be in a world of pain. So we might consider using Lightning's Boon to assist our other players. But let's have a look at what else we've got. At Raging Storm, it does 1 damage to each invader, which is great, but maybe not quite yet. It could kill off any explorers just like that. However, there's only 1 explorer per region at the moment, and it costs us 3. It is so expensive. So I don't think we'll play that one right now. This one here, Shatter Homesteads. It costs us 2 energy, but we get to generate 1 fear and destroy a town. Nice. I'm thinking we're going to use those 2 cards to send us into the first round. Now, while Lightning's been making their decisions, Rampant Green has been mulling it over as well. They have a slightly different growth option. It's kind of cool. Firstly, they are always going to spread their influence. It doesn't matter what they pick for their other options. So we're going to take 1 of our presence tokens and we're going to place it in either a jungle or a wetland at range 2. We're going to go ahead and take 1 of the presence ones, and I'm thinking we go in the forest down here. As you can see, it's within range 2, and that will give us some reach into the neighboring land. Because even though we have separate starting boards, there is nothing preventing players from crossing those borders and helping out on the other side. Really nice, yeah? Next, we have to figure out what our other option is going to be. So we can either reclaim our cards and gain a power card. We can add more presence and play +1 cards this turn. Or we can gain a power card and +3 energy. So for our additional growth action, I'm thinking we're going to do this middle one here. We're going to add an additional presence and play +1 card. We'll take 1 from up top here and we're going to place it up the top here. I think we're going to need it, and you'll see why soon. Now, it's probably worth mentioning that whenever you have 2 or more presence in a single location, that location becomes a sacred site, and sacred sites are key for the execution of the more powerful spells and abilities. Now we gain some energy. We're going to gain only 1 point, and we gain a free plant element for consideration with those below innate powers. So we're going to play 2 cards. We get 1 card plus an additional card thanks to our growth. I think we're going to go supportive here. Gift of Proliferation. Now this is a fast action and it can target another player, not yourself. Target spirit adds 1 presence up to 1 range from any of their existing presence. And for our second power, I'm thinking we're going to play this one here, Fields Choked with Growth. This is a slow power and we can use it in any territory up to range 1 and it can target any land. So I'll pop that down there. I'm going to go ahead and pay for the Gift of Proliferation. Now let's just see if this changes what Lightning is doing. And I think it does. So far we've spent our 2 energy on the Shatter Homesteads, which I still like, but this Harbingers of the Lightning may not be the best choice for us. So I'm thinking we might return the favor and boost a little bit of Rampant Green's abilities, and we'll give Lightning's Boon. Now this is going to cost us our last point of energy, but that should be just fine. Let's see how it all unfolds. So we move into the fast powers phase, and right now we've only got 2 fast powers going off. The first one we'll use is Lightning's Boon, which is a target spirit may use up to 2 of their slow powers as if they were fast powers this turn. This means Rampant Green is going to be able to use their Fields Choked with Growth immediately, right now. Now we've got 2 options here. It's got a range of 1, but we can either push 1 town or push 3 Dahin. And I'm thinking, knowing what we know about the invader phase coming up, we want to push that town out of there so we're not overwhelmed by structures in the land. So we're going to go ahead, select this region, and we're going to push this town out of it and into the sands. Finally, we utilize the Gift of Proliferation. Target spirit adds 1 presence up to 1 range from any of their existing presence. Now I think best bet for Lightning is to take another presence from their energy track, and we're going to place it into the forest up here. With that done, we are now into the invader phase. We begin by resolving any blighted island effects. Currently, there are none. Our island is still healthy. Next, we would resolve any earned fear cards. Currently, we've not done anything as far as fear is concerned. So, we move on to the invader actions. Now, in resolving these, we'll go from left to right and resolving the cards in play, beginning with Ravage over here. Now, currently there are no cards in Ravage, so we'll cross that in the next round. For the moment, we've just got a build in the jungle and a hidden explore card. So let's begin with the building. Now all the invaders that explored at the setup of the game, they now begin building. The build order is pretty simple. If it's just an explorer, they build a town. Easy. Finally, we've got the northwest region over here, and they're going to be building a town there. Would be. You see, Rampant Green has their own special ability that we're going to call into play right now. The Choke the Land with Green ability allows Rampant Green to prevent any ravaging or building in a region with his sacred site. The only cost is that he has to destroy one of his presents in that location. Now, destroying presents is usually quite a bad idea. If at any stage a spirit does not have any presents on the island, everybody loses. But, as we'll see shortly, Rampant Green is built for this sort of thing, so not to worry. All that's left in the Invader phase is to reveal the Explore card. In this case, they're going to be exploring in the mountains. Just as we did in the beginning of the game, any location that is neighbouring to an Invader force or contains one itself will spawn an Explorer. The final action in the Invader phase is to advance the Invader cards so we know what they're up to next round. Let's move in to the slow power phase. We only have one slow power to play, and that is Shatter Homesteads. This one has range of 2 from any of our sacred sites, and lucky for us, lightning starts with 1 on the board. We're going to gain 1 fear, and we may destroy 1 town in the selected region. Now, our sacred site is over here, and I'm thinking we should take out one of the towns in the forests, just to prevent things from getting a little full on. I'm thinking this one here will go. Let's head over to the Invader board to resolve our fear effects. Now, as we saw on the card, we gain 1 point of fear, but we're actually going to gain an additional one thanks to our destruction of the town in the region. As you can see here, destroying a town generates 1 fear, and destroying a city generates 2 fear. It's actually pretty small, you might not be able to see it, but it is there. 2 down, 6 to go, and that is the end of the slow powers phase. We move into the final phase. Time passes. If there are any damaged units on the map, they would recover, and all played cards now go into the discard pile. Let's head into the next round. Let's see what Rampant Green has going on. Now, we sort of went over his special rule before, well, we certainly enacted it. This one here, Choke the Land with Green. Whenever invaders would ravage or build in a land with your sacred site, you may prevent it by destroying one of your presence tokens in that land. And that's what we did just before to prevent the invaders from building the town in that top left forest. Now, he's also got another ability, which is why we're able to do that so willy-nilly. Steady Regeneration. When we add presence to the board via growth, we may use destroyed presence tokens. If the land is healthy, we may do so freely, but if the land is blighted, doing so costs 1 energy per presence token we add. Now, we're probably not going to bring in that newly destroyed influence, but we'll use it later should we need it. I think for the moment we'll concentrate on upgrading our abilities. Alright, so let's move into the growth phase, and as always we've got our growth option up here, and we get to remove a presence from our board, and I'm thinking we're going to have to upgrade our energy tracker again. Now, at this point of the game, we've got a bit of an idea of what the invaders are up to, so I'm thinking we're going to place that presence there, creating a new sacred site. And for the second, I think we're going to have to do this middle one again. We're going to add 1 more presence, and we're going to get 1 additional card play this turn, bringing us up, well, to 2. Maybe we should start upgrading our card plays. Let's do that. And I think we're going to place this one in the mountains over here. Yeah, let's lock that in just for the time being. See what you think. All right, with growth out of the way, next we gain some energy and we get 2 points this time. Awesome. Finally, we have to play and pay for our cards. Now, I'm thinking because we have 2 cards to play, we have 1 here and plus 1 card to play, thanks to our growth option, we're going to spend our remaining 2 cards here. Now, this first one is pretty dang cool. We may add 1 of our presence tokens to the board, or if target land already has a presence and invaders, we can generate 3 points of fear. Very cool. Our other one, Stem the Flow of Fresh Water. It's slow, but has a range of 1 from any of our sacred sites. It will cause 1 damage to 1 town or 1 city. If the target land is a mountain or a sand, instead deal 1 damage to each town and city on that location.
Now it is worth noting that we have 2 plants, we have 1 water and 1 moon going on here, and we gain an additional plant, which means we'll have generated enough elements to make use of our Creeper's Tear into Mortar ability and All Enveloping Green ability. Oh yeah. Now this of course will cost us the 2 energy we only just generated, but we have enough. Now with lightning, we're going to use his presence growth option here, placing 2 of our presence tokens onto the board. I'm going to choose 2 from the energy turn tracker so we can get 3 energy this turn. And I'm thinking we jet off to the other side of the island, 1, 2, just so we have a foothold over there. Our second token we can place at range 0, and I'm thinking we'll build up another sacred site in the center of the island there. Lightning now generates 3 points of energy thanks to over there. And we can take a look at the cards that we're going to play now. Now we have 2 here. The first one, push up to 2 Dahin and we gain 1 fear if we pushed any Dahin into a land with a town or a city. That's great. And then we have that Raging Storm one, 1 damage to each invader in the area. We'll go ahead and pay for both of those, and let's see how all this turns out. We move into the fast powers phase, and we're going to begin by utilizing Rampant Green's innate power, All Enveloping Green. This is a range of 1 from any of our sacred sites, and we're going to use Defend 2. This will be a great opportunity to see Defend in action, and I'm going to choose this location here. We've already got a bit of a force with our Dahin, but we're going to need it if we're going to save ourselves from the Blight. Next, we'll enact Overgrown in a Night. We can either add 1 presence, or if target land has your presence and invaders, we can cause Fear 3. I'm up for the Fear 3 in this case, so let's pick this forest down here. It has both Rampant Green's presence and invaders, so we generate 3 points of fear. 1, 2, and 3. Awesome, 3 to go. Now, Lightning's got 2 slow powers in play, but because they've got the wind or air element, we can use these as fast powers according to his special power. So let's go ahead and begin with Raging Storm. Now, this isn't ideal, but it's not a bad opportunity for us to do some damage. It's a range of 1 and 1 damage to each invader in chosen land. Now I'm going to pick this land here, and I'm going to do 1 damage to both the town and the explorer. The explorer gets wiped out immediately, but this is where Spirit Island showcases its true innovation. For every point of damage, we're going to knock the building over. How cool is this? Ready? Sweet. And as you can see, there is only 1 building left in the air, which means it's only got 1 hit point left. Oh, it's even better for a city. 3 hit points, 2 hit points, 1 hit point. Ah, I love it. Finally, the Harbingers of Lightning, we may push up to 2 Dahin, and we gain a fear if we push any into a land with a structure. So I'm going to pick this land over here, and we're going to push both of these Dahin out from that land into the forest below. There is, of course, a structure, so that is 1 more point of fear for us. 6 down, 2 to go. We might make it. And that marks the end of our fast powers, so let's head over to the invader board and we'll resolve all of that stuff over there. Firstly, Blighted Island effects. Currently nothing. We've still got our 4 points of blight there, no worries. Then our fear effects, we've still earned nothing, but that's going to change very shortly. So for right now, we're going to move through the invader track, beginning with our Ravage. Let's head to the jungle. Now, when invaders ravage, they deal damage to the land, causing all sorts of trouble for our spirits. Let's start in our top jungle, and I've just realized that I should not have placed this town because we used Rampant Green's ability to prevent the build. I just got distracted and left it there from our example. Fear not, we only have 1 invader there, and he deals 1 point of damage to the land. The good news is 1 point of damage is nothing our island can't handle, and nothing happens. Over here in the northeast, we have 1 explorer, and he deals 1 point of damage. Now, damage is pretty interesting in Spirit Island. I know I stuffed this up multiple games as I was playing, but he deals damage to both the Dahin and the island at the same time. In this case, it doesn't matter too much. The Dahin receives 1 point of damage, the forest itself receives 1 point of damage. Nothing happens with the island there. But because the Dahin were attacked, they are going to attack back, and these guys deal 2 points of damage to whatever's in the region with them. In this case, absolutely slaughtering the explorer. Here's trouble though. We'll begin with the town to the east. This guy, even though he's been dealt damage, is still going to do 2 damage, both to the land and to the Dahin. Damage to Dahin is ruthless, and it cannot be spread against multiple units. The good news is though, seeing as though the Dahin took damage, they are going to attack back, dealing 2 damage right in there, taking out the town in the battle. And for the destruction of the town, we gain 1 more fear. Now, because of the damage the invaders did to the island, we have to place 1 blight. Even though our Dahin died, it was not soaked up by them, and the land has seen enough bloodshed. Further to this, whenever we place blight in a region, we have to remove 1 presence from every spirit in that location. We are 1 step closer to losing our island. Finally, we resolve the land to the west. We have 1 explorer and 1 town for a total of 3 damage. Good news for us though, we have Defend 2 active in the region, and this reduces the damage done to a single point. 1 point against the land and 1 point against the Dahin. But then they attack back. 2 points per Dahin, only 3 hit points worth here, and we remove both of the invaders from the land. Our forests are almost free. And we've done it. On generating the final point of fear, we add everything back to the top, and we earn our first fear card. Next, the invaders build in the mountains. Starting in the west, we have 2 towns. And in the central coastlands, we also gain 1. In the southeast, however, we already have a town on the board, which means the next structure they construct is going to be the city. We've got to be really careful of this region now. Finally, the invaders explore, this time in the sands. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we move into the slow powers phase, and I think all my planning was for naught here. I was going to use our first innate power, range 0, dealing 1 point of damage to a town or a city. I was going to select this area here, and I'll still do it right now, dealing that 1 point of damage. But I don't think we can finish it off. See, I was going to land a hit with the stem the flow of fresh water here, but this one has a range of 1 from a sacred site, and we just don't have any sacred sites in the area. The closest we can manage is this city here, but even that's not going to manage anything. I guess we move into the time passes phase and hope we can do a little better next round. Alright, into the growth part of our spirit phase. Now, right now, we have discarded all our available power cards, so we are going to need to do the reclaim cards growth action here. Firstly, we reclaim our cards, and all 4 are now available for us to use. Next, we gain +1 power card and +1 energy. I'm going to grab one of them from over there. Now, in Spirit Island, we have 2 different types of powers that we can gain. We have the minor powers, which are always a great addition to the hand, and then major powers. Now, major powers often come with a slightly more expensive energy cost, and they also have this other little stipulation that you have to discard or basically remove from the game one of the other cards you have in your hand to be able to gain it. So it's probably a little bit further down in the track for us to go the major card. For the moment, let's grab one of these minor cards. Now, in the sort of normal version of the game, we take 4 cards from the deck and choose 1 to keep. In the basic version of the game, there is more of a linear progression to go through. Let's have a look at what we've got. Rouse the trees and stones. This is a range of 1 from a sacred site. You can't use it in any blighted regions. And we deal 2 damage and push 1 explorer. Okay, that's pretty cool. Gift of Living Energy. Target spirit gains 1 energy, +1 energy if target spirit is not yourself. Ooh la la. And if you have at least 2 sacred sites, target spirit gains an additional energy. Wow. The third option for us is Delusions of Danger. We can push an explorer or generate 2 fear. Nice. And finally, Quicken the Earth's Struggles. This is a range of 0 to a sacred site, 1 damage to each town or city, or defend 10. Good lord. All right. They are some pretty solid options for us. It's always a good idea to take into account what elements we're gaining from these as well. But man, we've got some good choices here. Look, they're all very good. I'm thinking we'll take this one into hand. Rouse the trees and stones. Next, Rampant Green's going to do some growing. And he's going to take a very similar path to Lightning. He's, of course, discarded all of his starting abilities, so we're going to need to reclaim our cards. Of course, we'll start with our Always Growth over there, placing one of our presence tokens in a jungle or a wetland. We'll take it from the card play, so we can at least play 2 cards this turn, but where do we put them? Let's jump into the wetlands. This might not be a great move, but it's certainly going to show off Spirit Island's more devilish side. Next, we'll take this action here, the Reclaim cards. Wonderful. And of course, we gain a power card as well in this one. And we'll choose those minor cards. 4 to choose from here. We have a Song of Sanctity. If target has Explorers, push the Explorers. Otherwise, remove some Blight. That's going to be very nice for us. Gift of Consistency, target spirit gains 2 energy, and at the end of the turn, target spirit may reclaim 1 power card instead of discarding it. Oh, nice. If you target another spirit, you may also reclaim 1 power card instead of discarding it. Call to Migrate, gather up to 3 Dahin, and then push up to 3 Dahin, and then Steam Vents, destroy an Explorer, or if we have 3 mountains, you may instead destroy a town. So we move into the fast powers phase, and guess what? We've found a way to make all of our abilities and spells go off right now. So we're going to start with Lightning's Boon. Target spirit may use up to 2 of their slow powers as if they were fast powers this turn. That means Rampant Green is going to be able to use both Fields Choked with Green and Call to Migrate as fast powers. Shatter Homesteads, of course, becomes a fast power thanks to Swiftness of Lightning. Now this is a range of 2 from any sacred site, and I think I have the perfect structure to take out. This town up here, gone. Now thanks to the destruction of the town and the generated fear, we are on our way to earning our next fear card. Next, we'll resolve Fields Choked with Green. This is a range of 1 from any of our presence. So I think we'll use this as our base of operations for the presence, and we're going to target this land here. We're going to go ahead and push that town out of there into the wetlands. Finally, we have Call to Migrate. This is range of 1, and I'm thinking we're going to target this region here. Firstly, we may gather up to 3 Dahin. Let's grab these guys, pop them in there. And then we'll finish it off by pushing both of the Dahin into the mountains here. Keep that one out. All right, with that, our fast powers are done and we move into the invader phase. Let's head on over. We begin by resolving the Blight effects, still none to speak of. This time we do have an earned fear card, Isolation. Now there are 3 different ways this card can be played, each relating to the current terror level. We're in terror level 1, so we're going to be doing the top version. Each player removes 1 explorer or town from a land where it is the only invader. Sweet, let's head over to the map. Now I think the best use of our power here is actually to take out the Explorer in the sands here and the Explorer in the sands over there, because we know the Explorers are going to be building in those locations if there is an invader presence. If we can remove that presence, we're in for a treat. Now the other option would have been maybe to take out this town in the wetlands there, but we haven't seen them come up yet. Now I know you're thinking it might be a good idea to generate some fear, but because we are removing the invader presence and not destroying it, there is no fear generated. Alright, let's ravage in the mountains. We'll begin up here. The Explorer does 1 damage to the Dahin, which attacks back, taking out the Explorer. Down here, we're not so lucky. 3 points of damage to the Dahin and to the land itself. We lose a Dahin and 1 is damaged. But that's not even the bad part. 3 damage to the land means another Blight token. We have a Slaughter up here, 1 damage to the Dahin, and they attack back with 4, absolutely taking this guy out. And finally, we have, a much worse off place down in the southeast. 6 points of damage to the land. You better believe that is a Blight token. Now at this point, we only have 1 Blight token left on our Healthy Island card. But what if there was already a Blight in this region? We would take the blight on the card, placing it in the region, but then it would explode pandemic style. Firstly, we would be flipping our healthy island card over to the blighted island. Memory fades to dust will be in play every time we need to enact a blight effect, and we're instructed to place 4 blight on this card per player, which means we have 8 life left. Now, from those 8 blight, in this fake instance, we're going to be placing 1 of them in the wetlands, 1 in the sands, 1 in the forest over here, and guess what? We have 2 blight sitting in the wetlands there, which means another explosion, pressing more and more blight out into the land. And this absolutely lays waste to our spirits. Presence in each location is reduced by 1 for every player, and we just lost our foothold on the map. Next, the invaders will build in the sands. In the north, we have to place a city. And over here, we're going to be placing a town, but that is it. There is no other explorer presence in the sands. Finally, we're going to be drawing our first level 2 invader card for the explore phase, and we pick the dreaded coastal lands. Oh, coastal lands are about the worst thing you could see come up because they affect all 3 lands adjacent to the coastline. 1, 2, 3 explorers here, and 3 up top. And that is about it for us. We move into the slow powers phase, but we have none to cast, so we move into the next round. And that'll probably do for our example here. I don't see how we could come back from this horrific example down here, but of course, if we were playing correctly, that would not have happened at all. But it's just nice to see the effect blight can have on the land and just how important it is to deal with early. All right. Let's head off away from the board and have a chat about this epic game.
There it is, guys and gals, just a taster of what Spirit Island has to offer. I've got to say, there is just so much game in this box. Not only does it sort of ease you in through the learning experience of the game, but it offers so much replayability, not just through its 8 different spirits in the core set, right? But there are so many different ways that you're going to be forced to play them. Never are you going to draw the same power cards. And it's just going to be so exciting, just trying to line up the perfect progression for your spirit and adapting to all these different things that the game throws at you. It is so wonderful. Now, you just saw the moderate kind of version of the game. The easy version has its own sort of path through the powers. You're going to be told which powers to add to your hand, and it's very welcoming to have such a complex game just take your hand and guide you without throwing you in the deep end straight away. But man, is that deep end fun. So in players taking on the role of their spirits, we're offered a number of ways that we can interact with the board. We're going to be pushing, we're going to be gathering, we're going to be healing blight, we're going to be spreading our influence to further spread our reach for our player abilities. There are just so many ways that we can interact with the board. And all these choices that we make are the ways that we put together our plan of attack that will surely win us the game. And then we have the AI interaction with the game, the invaders' actions, how they're going to be exploring, building, and laying waste to our best laid plans. Sure, at the beginning of the game, it kind of seems manageable. We're building our powers. We're easily combating these puny invaders. They find themselves on shore. We wash them away with our abilities. We set them on fire. We show them the horrors of the land that they're invading. But then stage 2 hits and they come at us with just this undeniable force. They're spreading, they're moving out across our island, and we can only struggle to keep up. But at this stage, we've upgraded some of our abilities. We can now play more powers. We are more powerful ourselves. And even though we are on the precipice of drowning under their tenacity, right? They're just coming back with more and more every time, unyielding. We always manage to kind of make it through. And that is a lot of where the excitement comes in. At no stage are we truly outmatched. If we've been playing an alright game, we can deal with it, but it just feels more fun, more exciting to deal with this greater number of explorer on the board. Oh, it's something else. See, co-op games are kind of special, right? Because you're playing against a system that someone else has designed, and it's not like they can truly outsmart you or anything like that. The game just has to be consistent and the powers have to be balanced. It's a really, really interesting balancing act. I don't know if you've ever tried to sort of design a board game, but if you ever have an AI, it's got to be bang on for the game to be considered fun, because otherwise you'll either get rolled by the AI system, and it's never fun. If you know that you're going to lose a game from the onset, it's just like, what's the point? On the flip side, if you're going to win every game and by a lot, it's just like, where's the challenge? Why am I even playing this? I could just flip a coin, heads or tails, reveal it and go, oh, it's heads. I'm going to change my call to heads because I want to win all the time. This is not what board gaming is about, right? So it's Spirit Island's balance of known effects, the way that we can influence the game, with its unknown effects, the way the invaders surprise you with their actions. Now, if we took a look at the invader deck, it's known information. We know what they're going to do, and it's just the way they spring it on us. Sure, in that first round of invaders, they're only going to be influencing one of the 4 different lands. But then stage 2, we have the coastal lands. In stage 3, we have some of the dual lands. And it's the fact that we don't quite know how they're going to come at us that we can't always prepare for a successful game. We have to play reactively. And it's in this balance that we've struck gold in the board gaming scene. Spirit Island it may not be perfectly balanced, but it is so enjoyably balanced that it doesn't matter. Now, Spirit Island throws quite a bit at you from the very onset. There's a lot of iconography, a lot of terms that you need to understand to actually play the game, and there's a lot of phases that make up each round of the game, so there's kind of a lot to take in as you go through. Now, I'll just straight up add that the player aids in this game, a couple of cards, double-sided, it's pretty much everything you need to know. Any checking you need to do is going to be on those cards. But you do need to support that with at least one extremely solid read of the rulebook, because there are, there's one rule that I personally kind of glossed over and misinterpreted. And that's the rule that when invaders damage land, they will damage land and Dahin if they're present simultaneously. The Dahin do not block any damage. And I was playing it as though, let's say, invaders are dealing 3 damage. I have 1 Dahin there, they soak up 2 damage, and finally 1 damage goes through to the land. I don't have to place a blight token. Not how you play. If there's 3 invaders, 1 Dahin, they do 3 damage to the Dahin, killing them, but also 3 damage to the land itself, and you have to place that blight token. And the fact that I played this wrong meant I was in for an easier game. Didn't actually hurt me learning the game, because it was just one less thing that I didn't have to consider when I was playing. But knowing that rule exists from the 2nd or 3rd game onwards, it just opened up this whole new level of depth to the game, right? So the other reason you need to read this rulebook through is that it really puts into perspective how you're playing this game. There are a lot of really well explained tidbits of information that if I were to explain them to you, you might be like, oh yeah, I think I get that. But when they put it in their little paragraph, their highlighted paragraph at the side of the page, you're like, of course, that's of course how you play. And I can't really throw an example at you here, but just read the rulebook thoroughly. For every game. But just make sure you read that rulebook through and through, because it is wonderfully well written, for me anyway. Now, I touched on that little bit of extra depth that this game threw at me when I realised, hey, damage goes through the Dahin to everything. Now, this game is weighted quite highly on Board Game Geek. I think it's rated maybe a high 3, early 4 on BGG, which means you're going to have to commit quite a bit of brain power to actually playing this game. And I just wanted to conceptualize that a little bit for you. It's not like a Phil Eklund game where the weight is tied in with the why and how you're doing things. There's a lot of science in his games that if you kind of want to understand that tie to the gameplay, That's when the brain power comes in. But in reality, some of his games are quite simple to conceptualize on a gameplay mechanics basis only. Spirit Island, I believe Spirit Island's gameplay doesn't come from understanding why and how you're doing things. It doesn't come from what you're doing on the board. Everything's quite simple, well laid out, stuff like that. It is the strategizing where the weight of this game comes from. You are going to be thinking turns ahead, dealing with these invaders as they move through their explore, their build, their ravage, and later there's even more different phases that come into this game. That is where the weight comes from. Now, they've done a wonderful job streamlining this game for new players. Take out a couple of the thinky elements of the game, but it gets you into the experience of what the gameplay is all about. It gets you excited about being a spirit, gets you excited and territorial about your whole island thing. It's fantastic. But then you add these new elements. And like I said in the video, we played kind of the moderate difficulty version. But you can add adversaries which change the way the invaders feel as you play them, a lot of the times making them way more powerful, and in some cases giving them multiple duplicate actions. For example, the Kingdom of England in the game, they will have multiple build phases, and that's just like, it's hard dealing with just one build phase for any adversary, let alone an additional set of towns and stuff to deal with. The other way that you can change the difficulty or the gameplay feel is by adding scenarios, and these can be little things like changing the orientation of the map, or adding different objectives to win the game or lose the game. It changes the way. Now, Spirit Island has a really cool way of showing you just how much more difficult things are going to be, because for each adversary it gives you an additional difficulty level. There are 6 levels of difficulty for each invader, and the scenarios, they add their own thing. And in fact, in the rulebook, if I can find it, they even have this wonderful little chart. I'll probably just zoom in on something there. They've got this little chart that shows you just how much more difficult your choices are going to be. And actually on top of this, we have a whole different map side. I can't believe I haven't thought about this yet. I'll put up a quick little snapshot of the other side of these map tokens. This is the thematic side of the game. And, you know, playing this, I guess all the regions aren't as scattered. Everything is kind of grouped together. The mountains are close together. The wetlands are close together. And in doing this, they've created a completely new difficulty level for this game that already has so many different ways that you can alter it. You can now play the thematic side. Now, there are some complaints that the thematic side of the board is a lot harder to read, and I can see where people are coming from, but if you've got the time to take a second look, it's pretty, you can figure it out, I believe. But it is nice to know that the developers of the game have released, or are releasing, a solution for these complaints. There will be a player mat coming out that helps to highlight some of the iconography and sort of make clearer some of the regional areas. So yeah, they're doing very nicely there. But yeah, suffice to say that with the thematic side of the board here, you've got just way too many ways to customize this game. In fact, it may well be the most customizable game available in the industry right now as the base game itself. It's not just the spirit you choose. It's not just the spirits that you're playing with that change the game. You can literally give the AI more devastating powers and more opportunities to wreck you, to keep the game fresh and interesting. And even for veteran players around there, I'm sure. I'm certainly not one myself. And like, even though its most basic level is probably suitable for any strategy board gamer around, it is worth noting that you do probably want to be into strategy games. This is not beer and pretzels night gaming right here. This is sit down, shut up, and think about what you're doing, and don't interrupt me while I'm figuring out what I'm doing here. It may not be the most interactive experience off the board game side of things. Like, on the board, you're interacting with players through and through. And I guess you are discussing a lot of your choices and options with other players at the board, but it's certainly not something where you can tune out of, you know, have a brief conversation and then come back and expect to be fully in the game with a chance of making a right call here. It's, yeah, it will demand a lot of your attention and brain power. For the solo player, it's really interesting. Of course, with the customization through and through, solo players really love a good challenge, and there is challenge to be had in spades. It's not just who you're up against, but it's the fact that you don't have the support of other spirits to compensate for your weaknesses as a spirit. Really, really cool. But as a solo enthusiast, I would recommend playing at least, two-handed if you've got the time, because it's worth seeing how these spirits interact for sure. But if you've got a group of players out there that aren't going to shy away from a challenge, that are willing to grow with this game after game after game after game, you've got probably the most perfect board game around, because you can tailor the experience so many ways, and it's just so exciting the whole way through. From beginning to end, there is not a dull moment. I don't know. I can't recommend this game more highly. It's got everything that I think you'll need. It's got the strategy, it's got the quick setup, tear down time, it's got a lot of lore behind it. These, on the back side of these spirit cards, you've got some really interesting flavor text that really, it helps pull you into this game, and I really do appreciate that. And I really think you guys will as well. If you're into thematic games, I know Kingdom Death is light years away from this, but that game tells a story. And so does this, but at a much, obviously, quicker level. But the story and the theme is still certainly there. For me, this is the #1 game of 2017, and it looks like a lot of people tend to agree. This thing is skyrocketing through the BGG rankings, and I know you shouldn't probably take those as gospel, but it is really nice to see that a game like this is doing so well. All that being said, I think I've said enough on the matter. I know I haven't shown you everything, but I hope I've at least whet your appetite for this game, and it's at least put it on your radar so you can get out there and give it a shot, because man, it is a worthwhile experience through and through. Now, as positive and as glowing as this review has been for it, I've tried to be considerate of this being just the base game, right? There is an expansion. There are promo materials available for this game, and I'm more than happy to come back and talk to you about the expansion and what that brings to this game. But for the moment, I think we'll let the base game sit there, and you guys can digest that, get out there, get a play in, come back and tell me what you think of the game. If this is on your table right now, tell me what you think, what your favorite spirits are, and all those sorts of things. I am keen to discuss. Anyway, I think that's it for us, guys. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and do all those things that you YouTubers can do to help grow the channels, such as this one here. I'm always grateful to see every little notification of you guys popping up. Really do appreciate the activity over the past months. That's it, guys. As always, my name is Michael. This is Bits of Board. We'll catch you next time.